Hello boys and girls, thanks for joining with me as we continue in this last week of Advent, the fourth week of Advent, in Jotham's journey towards Christmas, and we're in part 4. As small as Bethlehem was, it seemed huge with all the people and the animals that crowded the streets. Just like in Jerusalem, Jotham searched each face to see if it belonged to his father or brother or mother. "The one you seek you will find in Bethlehem," Anna had said to him. So far, all he had found were a lot of people pushing and shoving, trying to buy lamp oil or sell their animals to pay taxes. Some were just looking for a place to spend the night. In the middle of the town was a place where the two biggest roads crossed. It was here, right in the middle of the crossing, that 3 men sat on a long wooden table. Jotham could tell these men were Jewish by the red and blue pattern of their shawls. Each one was hunched over a stack of parchments, and each one was busy writing with a pen. Next to each man was a large cloth and a leather bag. Behind the table where the three men sat stood another man with skin so white that Jotham thought he must have bathed himself in goat's milk. He wore a white tunic with a light blue robe over the top and stood with his arms folded, watching everything that happened at the table carefully. Surrounding all 4 men and the table was a ring of Roman soldiers, wearing helmets, swords, bright red capes with gold stitching along the edge. The ring of soldiers took up almost the whole intersection, forcing travelers on the 2 roads to crowd their way around them next to the buildings. Stretching out from these soldiers and down one street as far as Jotham could see were 3 lines of dusty, sweaty, tired-looking men. Some held bundles in their arms, others talked in groups of 3 or 4. Still others clutched small leather bags so tightly to their chests that Jotham thought they must surely contain great treasure. Every few minutes a man at the front of the line would step through the soldiers and approach the wooden table. Peeking between 2 soldiers whose capes were blowing in the wind, Jotham could see the men who were standing and talking with those at the table. Then each of the standing men would open a purse or a bundle and extract several coins. These they gave to the tax collectors. This went on and on. Occasionally the milk-white man would point to one of the standing men and say something. A guard would then go with that man and return a few minutes later, nodding his head at the milk-white man. Then everything would proceed on as normal. But once after the guard had dragged a man away in chains, he returned with him still in chains. He threw him to the ground in front of the table. Everything stopped as the authority talked to the soldier. He turned and made a loud announcement to everyone who could hear his high-pitched voice. "This man," he said, "has tried to cheat Caesar. He thought he could deceive the Emperor of Rome by not declaring a newborn child. Let all men present witness the fruit of his lies." That, the biggest and most powerful soldier, who must be the leader of the other soldiers, Jotham decided, stepped to the center of the ring and pulled a long coiled whip from his belt. Jotham had never seen a whipping before, and his stomach felt as if it was full of snakes each time the whip sliced through the air and onto the back of the man on the ground. Finally, when it seemed as if the man would surely be dead, 2 soldiers got him to his feet and dragged him away. Jotham thought, so this is what a census is all about. For more than an hour, Jotham watched, fascinated by the amount of money that was handed over and given in cloth and leather bags. Slowly he began to realize that his father too would have to stand in this line and pay his taxes. Then, like a flash of lightning that lights up the whole world, Jotham realized that his father might have already been here. And if he had, then his name would be on one of those parchment lists. "Excuse me, sir," Jotham said, tugging on the red cape of one of the soldiers. The soldier's arms were folded and his face was outlined by his metal helmet. He looked down at Jotham. The soldier snorted a laugh through his nose. "Get away from me here, boy," he said, shoving Jotham back so hard he fell on his bottom on the dust of the road. "The business of Rome is no business of yours." "But sir," Jotham cried, "I've lost my father and must find out if he's been here yet. I've not seen him in many weeks and he might think I'm dead." Suddenly the soldier became very interested in Jotham's story. "Your father pays taxes in Bethlehem?" he asked. When Jotham nodded, the soldier thought for a moment and then said, "Follow me." So he pulled Jotham up by the hand and led him through the line of soldiers and over to the milk-white man. The two whispered for a moment, and then the milk-white man turned to Jotham and smiled. "I understand you're looking for your father," he said. Jotham's heart soared. Soon he would know if his father had been here, and if not, all he had to do was sit and wait for him to show up in one of the 3 lines. "That's correct, sir," Jotham answered. "If you could just look on your parchments and see if he's been here, I'd know how to find him." Then the man smiled, and it reminded Jotham of his favorite uncle who always brought him honeycomb. "And is it true that your father thinks you're dead?" Jotham nodded quickly. "Yes, sir, many weeks ago. I was separated from my family, and they think I was killed by a jackal." "Then your father believes he has one less son than he really does, correct?" Jotham nodded again. "Yes, sir." "This man is so nice," Jotham thought. "He really understands what I'm saying." "And what is your father's name?" the milk-white man, smiling again, asked. Jotham opened his mouth to answer, but suddenly something about the man's smile made him stop. Sort of a funny smile. His lips stretched thin as if the man really wasn't used to smiling at all. It reminded Jotham of something. It reminded him of another smile he'd seen somewhere. It reminded him of Dekav Megiddo. And in an instant, Jotham understood. Memories of the man who had been whipped and rushed through his mind, and he saw that this would be his father's fate if Jotham gave his name. He recognized now the evil behind that white man's smile, and saw that he was going to try to trick Jotham. So Jotham wanted to turn and run, but he was surrounded by soldiers that towered over him like Lebanon cedar trees. He looked from face to face to face to try to find a hint of kindness, but there wasn't any. Finally his eyes rested once again on the milk-white man and his crooked little smile. "Well, boy," the man said, bending down so that his face was now inches away from Jotham's, "what is your father's name? Tell me." Jotham was fooled into trusting the milk-white man, the Roman procurator, by his smile. What sort of things are we fooled into believing by pleasant but different sights and sounds of Christmas that have nothing to do with God?